What's up guys, Ryan here from Mud Gunner, and today I'm going to tell you what not to do to a gun store. Yeah, don't point guns at people, but yeah, and don't spin them right like this. I'm using a dummy gun for this. This is also a dummy gun. It's got the orange tip. That doesn't justify dummy gun. This is an airsoft gun. Yeah, today we are talking about gun store etiquette and just general gun safety. You wouldn't think we need to talk about this, but yeah, we need to talk about it. I'm going to show you guys a video from today at work where I had a guy come in just pointing a gun at me. Happens all the time, so I'm very used to it. But I figured we could talk to you guys about it and just show you what a gun store employee has to deal with, because again, it happens weekly. And yeah, let's get into it. So I'm gonna just talk a little bit about what not to do, and it's very simple stuff. You would think it's very easy, but don't come in with a gun pointed like this. And don't come in just holding a gun in your hand. Like, I know it looks cool if we talk with our hands and there's a gun in it and, maybe scratch our heads and stuff, but it doesn't look as cool as you think it looks, and it's very unsafe. So yeah, don't do that. And then on a side note, when I hand people guns, so this is how I always hand anyone a handgun at the store. So in the case, they are pointed forward in the case. When I take it out, I pick it up in a non-threatening manner in my mind. Like I pick it up, I instantly point it down, turn it to the side, drop the mag out, put it on the counter, and then lock the slide back and hand it to them like this, with it pointed at me. Now, if they take it from me like this, that doesn't bother me because I've already locked it back and I clear it and everything, but I'll hand it to them like this. And more often than not, the first thing they do is they take it, they turn it sideways, and a lot of them, they have someone else with them, their kids with them, and they're just like this. And that gun is pointed right at the other person, right at their kid's head. It happens all the time. And it's like, like I know I just cleared it, but like, again, you're holding it like this and your kid's head is like right here, or their wife or their girlfriend that they're trying to impress, and it's like, ugh, lady, you can do better. But yeah, and one thing within gun stores, it is a very crowded environment, so I understand that to a degree, right? Like, I point it down, clear it this way, hand it to them this way, it's pointed at me, it is what it is. If they take it, and a lot of people are safe, I'm not saying everyone's bad, but if they point it down, feel the gun, they'll point it down, or depending on, what's around us, they might point it up, and that's fine. Like, they want to get a feel for the gun, especially like a SIG, which this is a fake SIG. Like if you're buying guns, and some of them, they're very expensive. You could spend thousands of dollars. Like I don't expect you to just hold it, be like, yeah, I'll take it. A lot of people are like that too, but it's okay to get a feel for a gun, and we don't have a range. So they really just have to get a feel in store, see what they think, try the trigger or whatnot, but just be safe about it. You can either point it down, depending on the store, how they are. I'd say it's okay to point it up, but just know as you go up, you're flagging anything in that direction. So I tend to just point down. I don't ever point up. With a rifle, right? Like we show ARs and stuff like that. Like, sure, you might have to point it down, or if it's safer, you can adjust, point it up. I'm just trying to give you guys my thoughts on it. But yes, gun stores are very crowded, so the muzzle is tough at times, but I mean, you can still be as safe as possible. Or if you're handling it in certain ways, just have it locked back. And then, yeah, like I like when people hand it back to me like that and it's locked back. Just shows that, they're extra cautious about it. But again, plenty of times I'll hand it to someone like this, and the first thing that they do is like this, or they're, talking like using their hands to talk with the gun in their hand now. And I'm like, yeah, there's been multiple times where I'm like this and I'm like, move the gun out of the way. And I might be smiling and laughing about it, but it's just like, again, I deal with it so often. It's like no big deal, but it is a big deal. So that's why I'm telling you guys about this. Spread the word. If you go to a gun store with your friend, don't let them, talk with like their hands and stuff. Just gun safety. So yeah, we got some dummy guns. So then see, I didn't even want to use a real gun for the purpose of this. I wanted to use dummy guns to get my point across. So I'm going to show you guys this clip right now, the story behind this clip. And this didn't like make me feel threatened today. Like it's just in my head, it's another idiot that I have to deal with. But the story is this kid bought this gun a couple days ago from us, and he called today and is like, hey, I'm moving. I don't want this gun, so I need to bring it back. We don't do returns on guns. That's normal for gun stores. Like it's just, it's not Walmart. We can't return your stuff, but we will buy it back. You'll just take a hit. So I told him over the phone what we would buy it back for as long as condition and everything is fine. And yeah, I knew he was coming in with it. I didn't know what he looked like because I didn't work with him, but I had an idea. And when he came in, you guys are going to see in the video, it happens kind of fast, but he walks in with the gun basically like this in his hand. He's just strolling like this and holding it like that. But then as he gets closer to me, he puts his hand on it, and then he's kind of like this. He's not like grabbing it like normal, but he's grabbing it like this, and he's walking like this. And in the video, you can't hear the audio. I'm going to talk over it. But I say, hey, please don't point that gun at me. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he's holding it, and then he's holding it like this, like, and he hands it to me like this. Still kind of pointed at my feet, but he hands it to me like this. So that's what you guys are going to see in the video from 2 different angles. It's not the greatest video. I just recorded our computer monitor with my phone, so not the greatest video, but you guys will get the point of it, and I'll slow it down too, because stuff like this happens very fast, and I have snatched guns out of people's hands before, and I've never, like, maybe I should yell, but I don't yell at people, but I have grabbed guns from people's hands. I've seen, like, my coworkers, like even new guys, where someone's showing them a gun and I see them rack the slide while the mag's still in there and I see rounds going in the chamber, and I have ran and I've just grabbed the gun. So I've done that. And I mean, even when I do that, I'm just like, hey, you know, the gun's loaded. So anyone that's dealt with me in the store, I don't feel like I'm an angry person. I don't yell at people. In my head, I might be yelling at them, but I would say my demeanor is kind of like this. I don't really freak out. I don't have blow-ups or anything like that. I just kind of am who I am. But I will grab guns. And in this video, you might judge me because of my reaction. Like, my reaction was I hold my left hand up. I'm like, hey, don't point that gun at me. I wasn't grabbing my gun or anything because I already knew that this kid was just there to return the gun. If it was anyone else, though, like, there's times where, like, my hand might be close to my gun, but I've never had to draw my gun at the store, and I've worked there for 10 years. But I have dealt with a lot of idiots. I've had guns pointed at me. Guns have gone off in the store, but I've never had to draw my gun on anyone. And if we were basing it just off of, oh, if someone drew their gun on me or had a gun pointed at me, I would draw on them, I'd be drawing my gun on people every single week. So that's what you have to understand. If you don't work in the gun industry, you might not understand that. And I get it, right? Like, if you buy a gun for self-defense and someone has a gun pointed at you, chances are you're going to want to draw your gun. But I work in the gun store, and every single day or every single week, people come in and they'll have their gun pointed at me. So it's like, I just have to deal with it. But yeah, that's my context for this, but I'll show you guys the clip now, and yeah, we'll kind of talk about it. All right, guys, before I hit play, I'm gonna just kind of walk you through it. He's walking in with a gun, kind of nonchalantly, but the gun's in his hand, and then he puts it basically in both of his hands and has it pointed at me. It happens very quick, and I'll kind of give you guys my thought as he does it, but let me hit play real fast. So he's walking in, I have my eyes on him, I'm paying attention. See, he's got it in his right hand, just holding it by the base of the grip, but then he puts it all the way in his hand and has it pointed at me. And I'm like, hey, you need to not point that gun at me. And he apologizes, but I mean, this is really, really bad gun discipline in general. Because one, it's got a magazine in it, it was not loaded, but still, how am I supposed to know that, you know? Like, from the stance of a gun shop employee, like, we don't know if they're loaded, and more often than not, they are loaded. We have guns pointed at us every single day, so yeah, it's not great. In this next video, you see I was sitting down, I had my phone out, but I'm always observant, and I stand up so that, you know, I can just be ready, worst case scenario if anything happens, because I could see before he gets in the store that he has a gun in his hand. You see he has it in his right hand, puts it in both his hands, and then, I mean, it looks like it's mostly pointed down. I'll zoom in a sec, but that gun was basically pointed in my general direction, which is not ideal, and you guys might judge my reaction or whatnot, but the reality is I deal with this every single day. I have guns pointed at me every single day, but I just figured I would use this one as an example so that maybe it gets a couple people to stop doing it. So yeah, when you go into a gun store, I mean, it's okay to bring your guns in. Obviously, just check with the store. Like, we buy guns every day. That's why he brought this in. But I mean, it needs to be in a case, guys. Like, I know there are people that don't bring them in cases, or family members, like, they'll bring guns because, you know, a family member passed away. That's one thing. I don't expect them to go and buy gun cases, but you got to at least talk to a gun store about bringing them in without a case, because, I mean, how are we supposed to know what your intentions are if you just stroll in with a gun in your hand? But this kid, he did call like an hour prior to this. He said, you know, he bought this Smith & Wesson Shield. He bought it like 2 days prior, but then he says he's moving, so he didn't want to keep it. So I told him that we could buy it back, which when you buy a gun and then sell it 2 days later, you don't get a full return, because guns aren't just something you can own for a couple days and return it. You will take a hit on it, but yeah, I already knew he was coming in. I didn't work with him the first time he was in the shop, but yeah, I knew once I saw the shield in his hand as he was walking in, I'm like, okay, it's this kid. But still, if that was any other person, how are you supposed to know what their intentions are? Again, I knew his intentions, but that still doesn't make it okay for him to walk in like that. And I mean, you can judge me based off my reaction, right? Like, if I had to point a gun at someone every single time they pointed a gun at me, I'd be drawing my gun on people 3 times a day. That's the reality of it. So we wouldn't stay in business very long, and I'd probably have a lot of negative reviews. But yeah, I mean, that's just the reality of working in a gun store. You're going to get guns pointed at you. A lot of them will be loaded. A lot of them will be unloaded. You never know which is which, but I guess I'm very accustomed to it, which is probably not a good thing, but I'm not fazed by it at this point. And I mean, some of my coworkers, they can be a lot more harsh on people than me, and I don't blame them, right? Like, you're putting their life at risk. I would say I'm more like, hey, can you not point that gun at me? Like, in that exact tone. Like, I don't raise my voice at people. I've definitely had belligerent people or people get aggressive with me, but I mean, I really don't raise my voice with people because there's no reasoning with people like that. So I basically, at that point, I would just say, hey, you need to leave the store or I'm going to have you trespass. So, and I've never had anyone try to take that challenge. But yeah, in this case, like, again, I knew who it was. So I really wasn't in fear of my life. I'm like, okay, here's just another person. I'll try to say it as nicely as I can, but I'm like, here's just another idiot coming in with a gun, you know, just like this. It's very unsafe, and I'm just talking over while I'm looking at this, but I'm probably looping it, and I'm gonna zoom in on this one. Let me zoom in on this. I'm gonna zoom in on the first clip just so we can maybe get a better view of it, but it's not the best angle because I recorded this with my phone from the computer screen, so it's not the greatest video, but let's see. So here's zoomed in, and then I'm gonna slow it down as well. You see him dangling it right there. And then right here, I'm pausing it. See, he's basically got it in both his hands. And as a gun shop, like, you see my coworker, he's working with someone as well. Like, we have to kind of stay on top of it. And he heard me say, hey, don't point that gun at me. We basically all have to count in each other to spot stuff if the other person can't look, because you can't stare at everyone 24/7. Like, he's working with a customer. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. And you see right here, our silencer shop kiosk is kind of in the way, but he has the gun in both of his hands and he has it pointed in my general direction. You see his hands are kind of closed together. At that point, he didn't have like a full grip on the gun. He was just pressing the gun between his hands, which, I mean, it's not any better. It's a little better than just straight up being pointed at me, but it's still straight up pointed at me in between his hands. So it doesn't make me feel any better about it. And then let me move this box. And by this point, I already have my hand out, and it's my left hand in case I need to go for my gun with my right hand. But that's just my reasoning for it. I'm kind of turned just slightly and ready to move if I need to, but I'm just like, hey, don't point. I think all I said was, hey, please don't point the gun at me. And then I just take it, and yeah, that's about it. So let's go to the other angle of this video. All right, so slow motion on this other clip. He's got it in his right hand. He's just swinging it around, which, again, not safe. I'm curious what you guys would do in this situation. I know there's probably some guys that would be like, I would yell or I would draw my gun or whatnot. But again, I deal with this every single day. And this happened today as of Thursday. And this was the first time I got a gun pointed at me today, but it wasn't the only time. I had a gun pointed at me 2 other times. Again, I'm used to it, which is not ideal, but yeah, so right here, he puts the gun at waist level. I mean, at this point, if he grabbed it properly, he could press out and shoot and probably get a shot or 2 off at me, but again, I was watching very intently and paying attention, and I told him, I'm like, hey, don't point the gun at me. Yeah, right here again. So at this point, when he's standing right here, he's got a full grip on the gun, his fingers off the trigger, and I'm paying attention to that too, but still, this is just asking for trouble. And depending on the employee or the shop or who else is in the shop, I mean, guns can get pointed at you. Like, someone could draw their gun and point them at this person because maybe they think he's trying to rob us or shoot someone. But again, I think it's just really bad gun etiquette is the reality of it. And other than that, my biggest thing is don't do this, guys, because that is asking for trouble. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, gun safety is very important. I can't spin this one. It's got a heavy handle. But yeah, don't do that. It's just for jokes. These are fake guns. And so this? Yeah. Okay, come here then. All right, guys, wait. We have the girlfriend here. She's here to talk about guns too and what not to do. Right, babe?
I only have one thing to say.
Okay.
If you have to do the form, the background form, more than 2 times, I want you to turn around, go back into your car, and drive it into a lake.
Oh my gosh. Okay, don't actually do that, because if I get a call saying that someone killed himself because of this, okay, yeah, don't do that.
Go back into your car, pull down the visor, and look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you're stupid 3 times, and go home. And don't buy a gun, okay? I'm tired of you guys. All
right, so what she's referring to, guys, is she works at the shop with us occasionally, and we have to do a background checks on people that buy guns, and it's called a 4473. That's the nationwide background check. And there are people that take 2 times to fill it out, 1 time to fill it out, or 8 times to fill it out. Now we have our limits, right? Like if it depends. If someone fills it out and they miss a box, and then I give them another form and then they miss a different box, and then I give them another form and they miss a different box, I'm like, dude, you had this box right the first 2 times. Why did you make it wrong this time? Like, yeah, we have issues like that where someone will have everything right except one thing, and then on the next form they'll have that thing right plus everything else plus minus one thing. It does get annoying. Again, we deal with that on a daily basis as well, but yeah, that's what she's referring to, guys. She works at the gun store with me, and it's very annoying when you have some guy that messes up a form 5 times in a row.
Do you know another really annoying thing? I'm going to share my other pet peeve. When people bring in their wives and ask, or girlfriends, and ask if they could fill out the form for them.
Oh yeah, that one's annoying too. I didn't even think about that.
If you are a man and you are like, I don't know, I just can't get it right because she always does the forms for me. That is so ugly, and I want you to slap yourself. That is so stupid, and I think you need to reevaluate your life if you can't fill out a simple doctor form, basically.
It's 1 page of information. Well, 1.5 pages because they spread it out on 2 pages.
I just can't. But that's all I had to say.
Gabrielle, guys, give her a hand. Give her a round of applause. All right, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. We did a video where I talked about her gun that I got her yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And you guys seem to like it. So if you want to see her on the channel more, comment down below. But yeah, again, be safe with guns. No fingers on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And yeah, don't point it at your kids, at your girlfriend, at gun store employees. It's bad. Don't talk with guns. But yeah, besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for my next video. We have my weekly viewer build video coming out tomorrow, and it's my biggest one I've ever had. So stay tuned for that one.